what meditation is focusing upon something that allows the fullness of who you are to flow through you while you're doing it. And so, for many, a meditation means quieting mind, because when you quiet mind, you stop thought, and when you stop thought, there is no resistance, and when there is no resistance, you are in alignment with who you are. But you could also say that meditation could be deeply involved in a very good joke that's taking you to a very happy laugh at the end, or meditation could be involved in some mathematical equation that has your full undivided attention and is causing you to, in other words, meditation is a word that's used in lots of different ways, but when we use it, we like to make it synonymous with connection. Meditation being a means to fully connecting with who you really are. And so there are so many different ways that you could be in that state of connection. Really, in the state of appreciation is a state of absolute connection. And for many, being in the state of appreciation is easier than getting into a state of meditation. We wouldn't make too much of it. We would use the more structured idea of meditation, which is putting myself in a quiet place where I will not be distracted, where I can easily focus in a place where I will feel good while I focus there. We would utilize that process more as a bridge to bring us back into alignment than anything else once we have achieved the state that you have achieved. In other words, when Esther relaxes her mind, information just flows through her. She and you have been asking so many questions that whenever she's not focusing upon something, answers to formerly asked questions begin to flow through. And so she finds her mind is never quiet. She's always contemplating something, but it is very blissful in nature. And so we are not encouraging a quiet mind. We are encouraging an open to source mind. And that's really what meditation, that's what the purpose of meditation is for. The analogy that we have enjoyed so much through the years is that imagine a cork bobbing up on the surface. That is where your natural vibration is, up in this pure, positive energy. When you think a thought that is negative, like worrying about something or fearing something or disapproving of something, that negative emotion is like holding the cork under the water. When you let go of the cork, it's going to bob right back up. You don't have to push the cork up. And you don't have to achieve a higher vibration. Your vibration will naturally be in that high, fast, pure place. In other words, you will naturally be connected to the stream of energy that is your source, unless you are choosing a thought that is different in vibrational nature. And so sometimes what happens is people get so accustomed to focusing upon whatever is before them. Your television is amazing because it gives you so much information, some of it helpful and some of it not helpful, but you sort of give your attention to all of it. And so your cork is up and down and up and down and up and down. And you, in the process of that, you become desensitized to the way you feel because it begins to feel sort of normal to focus upon things that are resistant in nature. So sometimes you lose your sensitivity to whether you're connected or not. And so a more stringent time of meditation can resensitize you back to that feeling of whether you're in alignment or not. We think that if we were in your physical body, we would find 15 minutes in every day. And usually earlier in the day is better, where we could just get off, be distracted from whatever is happening, and focus upon blissful things. And whether you call it meditation or a workshop or virtual reality, whether you quiet your mind, whether you focus upon something pleasing, really is not so important. It's just that time of deliberately raising vibration, because in doing so, then you are more cognizant of those moments when you are not raising your vibration, when you have sort of been ambushed by something that takes you into a less good feeling place. The reason that we and most other teachers who teach meditation do so is because it's easier to teach most of you to have no thought than it is for you to have positive thought. Because there are so many thoughts that seem like normal everyday thoughts that come to you so easily because you've practiced them so much. When we began playing with Esther and so many others, saying to you, you will be in a place of absolute well-being and in a place of letting it in unless you're doing that thing you do. And they said, what thing? And we said, unless you're holding yourself on a thought where negative emotion is present. Unless you are doing that thing you do, your cork will be floating. Unless you are holding yourself on a thought that feels like negative emotion, you'll be in the state that is better than meditation. You'll be in the state of connection, you see. And then Esther, as she became very aware of the negative emotion that she was feeling, then began to feel defensive about catching herself in negative emotions so frequently. And her response was, well, it's true. In other words, I am having a negative thought. Yes, it's true. And I am using this negative thought as my reason to pinch myself off from the fullness of who I am. But I have a very good reason for doing it because what I'm focused upon is true. And we say, who cares if it's true or not? That's not the criteria that you're wanting to weigh. You're wanting to weigh, how does it feel? And that's what meditation will do for you. It puts you in the place where you are more aware of how every thought feels, so that you can do a more deliberate job of choosing the thoughts that are more aligning in nature. In other words, we think that you could say easily, well, I want it to feel good, and I want it to be of value, and I want it to be uplifting in nature, and I want to be eager to go there every day. I want to wake up thinking about it and being excited about it. I want it to call me. In other words, you don't have to specify the details of it. Just talk about why you want it. That's enough. Most of you, as you begin to explore the idea of deliberate creation, you're really too hard on yourselves. And part of it's because you try to compare yourself with everybody. It's like, do you ever go into a library or into a bookstore and feel overwhelmed by everything that's there? It's like, where do I begin? What do I choose? It almost makes you want to run screaming from the place because there's so much in there that you ought to be interested in, you don't even know where to begin. And we say, we would never go into a library or a bookstore without a question. In other words, we would never go shopping without a reason to go. We would not just wander aimlessly through. It drives you nuts because everything has your attention. It just pulls you every which way, you see. But if you've got something that you want to know, Esther went up to the room and discovered that her sleeve is floating free with no button. And then she remembered seeing something shiny on the floor, and then she looked at the other button and said, oh, that's that shiny thing I saw on the floor. So then she thought, I wonder if it's still there. When she found it, the shank is broken on it, so the button cannot be used anymore. And then she thought, I wonder if there's a website that says www.buttons.com. I wonder if there's if anybody's organized a place where I can buy beautiful buttons. And then she thought, wouldn't it be nice if there was something where it would say how big the button should be, what color is it, what's it made of, what's it weight? In other words, and then she thought, oh, there are all kinds of garments that I have that I would like to replace the buttons. And then she thought, this blouse, I always have to pin it because the buttons are too small for the holes. And so to keep Abraham from exposing me, I always have to pin it. Wouldn't it be nice if I could find some buttons that are really right for that? And then she had 15 minutes of pleasure over losing a button. And we think that the internet would be a more comfortable place for her to interact with now that she has something that she's looking for. You get a sense of what we're talking about? So formulating the question is what your life experience is all about. In other words, your life experience is formulating the basis for the asking. And when a desire for something occurs within you, oh, that's life itself. In other words, isn't that life itself? Because in the moment that the asking begins, the answering starts coming, you see. And so that's the way if we were standing in your shoes, we would not be contemplating so much meditating. We would be contemplating asking. We would be saying to ourselves, I want to know what I want to know. Well, what do I want to know about this? And what do I want to know about this? We would try to regain that eager stance that you felt as that little tyke where everything was interesting to you. And as you identify one thing that's interesting and the universe yields more, now it may become more interesting or it may become less interesting. You get to decide about that. But Oh, what an environment you are focused within. There has never been in any reality that we have ever witnessed, and we've seen them all, there has never been a more joyful potential for creating than right here, right now, where you are. It is just the best. When we say leading edge, did we say leading edge? When we say leading edge, we are not kidding you about that. It is the most exposure to the most contrast, which is producing the most unique desires with the most opportunity for fulfilling them that we have ever seen. And we want you to become excited about being this focuser of this energy, and stop beating up on yourself about what you do not know. In other words, who cares? Who cares if I cannot define precisely all of the details of that? I don't have to. That's not my job. This is as far as I feel like going right now, and it feels pretty good to go this far, you see. Let's back up just a little bit. We were talking about how when a train is moving down the track at 70 or 80 miles an hour, and the engineer decides he wants to go the other way, he doesn't just stop instantly and start going the other way. There is some time that it takes to slow to a stop, and then some time that it takes to get revved back up again. And that's the way your thoughts are too. When you hold a thought and you focus upon the thought begins to attract unto itself. And in the attraction of more thought that are like it, it gains power and speed. Now, as you are thinking, as you are standing in your now, and let's say that you are in this place, as you described, of feeling somewhat subdued, sort of content, but not much passion and not much angst either. In other words, you're sort of in that range. You all have a range, and where you are is not from agony to ecstasy. Where you are is a narrower range. And that range, it's what your set of beliefs are. It's what your mood or attitude is. And while it can differ on different subjects, you have this overall ambiance that is sort of where you are. And you don't shift in or out of it very quickly. You know that. That's why you are able to describe people in terms of moods. You say, oh, he's a very serious person. Or you say, oh, she's a very lighthearted person. Or you say, oh, that's a very moody person, meaning it could go all over the place. And so when you acknowledge that the vibration that you've achieved is a sort of practiced pattern of thought, and that for the vibration to shift, the pattern of the thought has to shift, that's why we say it's not going to happen instantaneously. It happens gradually. That's why visualization is such a powerful thing. As you reach out and get a piece of something that feels pleasant to you, and then you milk it for all you can, what happens is you use that as your excuse to move to a different vibration. And as you do, you're less likely to go all the way back to that other range. And so that's why the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets. As you are deliberately reaching for the better feeling thought and finding it, before long, it becomes a practiced thought. Something that happens to you, and this has happened to you quite some time ago, your sensitivity to the way you feel becomes more and more heightened as you become more deliberate in your choice of thoughts. And as you are deliberately choosing your thoughts, more and more holding yourself in this consistent place of feeling good, it's like you've stopped your train and it's going the other direction now. But it is always a gradual thing. People talk about quantum leaps. And what a quantum leap is where the contrast of your life has become so extreme that it shoots you into a powerful new place of desire that is very far from where your usual vibrational thought is, but it's such a compelling thing and you wanted it so much and you're somehow able to give your attention to this new desire momentarily, that sometimes you can shift dramatically and drastically, but quantum leaps usually do not hold. In other words, you jump up there, you have a sort of flash experience, and you usually, before very long, find yourself right back where you were before. And so, don't worry about slowing your train down or even going in the other direction. Just hop on another train. Sometimes it's an easier thought. I'm just going to hop onto another thought. I'm not going to grind this thought to a halt and then get another thought going. Just as soon as you can, just jump trains onto another train of thought, yes.